Hey y'all, Moses here. I just wanted to let you know that I am running a giveaway for some K7XX Mass Drop Edition headphones, the link to which is in the description below. These things are a custom-made headphone by Mass Drop. I wear them all the time. These are my all-time favorite headphones. I've been wearing these since I first started streaming. I switch out from time to time to test out new stuff, but I always come back to these. So if you're interested in winning a pair, check out the link in the description below. Thank you to Massdrop for helping make that happen. And be sure to check out Massdrop's website below as well. They're a community-driven platform. They make all sorts of great products. Even if you're not into headphones, they have mechanical keyboards, photography, a million different things. So thanks to them and enjoy the video. Hey y'all, Moses here. I just wanted to take a few moments to talk about the new map. I have lots to talk about. There is no script for this video, so I'm just going to kind of go through and talk about my experiences, some of the interesting spots around the map, and just kind of my general overall first impressions. So let's jump right in. So the new map, it is a 4x4 map. It is a quarter of the size of maps like Miramar and Erangel. So that means that there is a significantly less amount of playable space, and there are a lot more landmarks that are a lot closer together. So ideally, this is supposed to be a faster paced map. So it's a jungle environment. They've done a decent job at doing the terraforming. I really like the ups and downs. It has a lot more of various types of terrain than Erangel does, but it doesn't have the crazy amounts of up and down that Miramar does. So Miramar being on one scale of open desert with not a lot of cover and lots of up and down terrain, hills, etc. Erangel being on the other side where it's kind of unfinished and large, but still has decent balance. I believe Savage falls somewhere more on the scale towards Erangel, but just at a smaller scale. So I think that with this playtest, they're going to hit on a lot of things that have made Erangel a good map, arguably better than Miramar. I know everyone has their favorite. However, this is a completely different map and is kind of in its own ecosystem considering its size. So let's talk about some of the pros and cons. So the pro right away is that I really like the size. I think that the early battles are fast and furious. And I really like the training center. So the training center is the center school portion of the map. It is a large area. It is by far, I think, the largest complex of buildings in the map. And it is built exactly like it sounds, like a training center. There's ramps and kill houses and targets everywhere and trenches. And I think that we'll probably see this be used in a future actual training center. This seems like something that would show up in a training mode. But for what it is created for and its purpose is to just be a hot drop spot where you have 25 out of the 100 people jump into that area and battle it out in a very nice area that's conducive to gunfighting. Not a lot of complex areas, but just enough to move around, be in cover. It's kind of built like a paintball arena, or maybe something you'd see in a FBI training headquarters or something like that. A lot of unfinished textures. It's very empty right now, but for its purpose, it's actually a lot of fun, and I love playing there. So check out the training center. If you want to get better, I think it'll be a great spot to jump in there and just kind of deathmatch. Don't expect to live. I mean, the RNG there is still quite a factor. I died a lot of times within seconds, but once you get used to it and you start battling it out, it becomes quite nice, but don't expect to live. So the second part is that there are a lot of other viable... Oh, one thing before I move on from the training center, the loot is insane. The loot there is insane. There's ARs and level 3 gear everywhere. If you win the training center, you are rewarded with a lot of really nice gear if it's not been destroyed by shooting it off of people. So overall, yeah, the training center is great. Anyway, moving on from there, there are lots of other neat places. There's like Boot Camp Bravo and Alpha and that kind of thing. So it's kind of smaller. The spawn locations are smaller versions of the training center. But overall, I think that just based on the size, you can basically go anywhere and get looted fairly decently. Some of the smaller compounds don't seem that interesting. I think that it's a very landmark-driven map where you can jump around to different spots that are relatively viable, and you'll probably get a fight there. So if you want to drop far away from all the action, or at least you want to drop in a safer manner than dropping in the center and fighting with everybody, you'll probably still be able to get 1 or 2 or 3 kills in the extremity zones as well. I guess I'll touch a little bit on one of the cons, which is after the initial portion of the game where people drop in and fight it out, the mid-game becomes quite boring. And that's just a factor of the training center drawing so many people to it and a lot of people dying and hot dropping early. Now it's very early in this game, in this map's development. I think that everyone was just dropping early and fighting just to get a look at what the map was like, and I think the behavior will kind of even out over time. However, I think the training center and some of the other areas around the map will continue to draw a large presence of people, and that might make the mid game require some tweaking. So I think the second and third circles will be where the first opportunity comes in. I think the first circle is fine the way it is, but I think that the second and third and maybe even the fourth circle should be sped up drastically to really force people through the mid game and into the end game as quickly as possible, because there was a few times where I would be out of the training center or out of wherever I happen to drop and there's only 20 people alive at the beginning of the second circle. So you're basically in an end game situation with a huge portion of the map still in the play zone, and it slowed right down, which wasn't very fun. And even if you miss the initial action, you might be finding yourself with 0 kills and running around for 20 minutes, which can be just not fun at all. So something else I almost forgot to mention is the fact that there is dynamic weather in Savage. So sometimes the foggy map will start to rain. Imagine he's traveling this way. We're in the zone. There's already 55 people dead, or 45 people dead, I should say. What? The weather is changing? What in the sweet hell? Suddenly. I haven't seen it go from raining to clear just yet, but fog has turned to rain. I haven't seen rain turn to just fog or the rain shut off yet, but there have been a few instances where I was in a foggy style map, and the fog is not nearly as heavy as it has been in the past, and the rain sound is much quieter than it has been in the past. And it was actually quite nice to see a bit of a haze and a little bit of rain come in. It kind of adds a little bit to the atmosphere. So this implementation of weather has been much better than what was done in the past. And it doesn't really bug me from a gameplay standpoint. So just a heads up, there's dynamic weather on Savage, and hopefully this is something that'll come to other maps in the future, or maybe be retroactively added to the older maps. So I suppose, other than that, my initial impressions is that the map is quite good. Now, how would I fix some of the things that are wrong with it? Well, the first thing is I would remove the red zone from the game, because the red zone has not scaled with the size of the map. So the red zones are much larger than they would be on Miramar and Erangel, and they often repeat themselves on top of you. So I just think the red zone in general should be removed from the game. Yeah. Also, there's a lot of missing textures, and I don't think that from an art standpoint that the map is quite finished yet. And that's obvious because some things are just literally gray textures. But that's not so much a critique, more so just a status of where the map is currently. So a lot of things can change. And that's exactly what this test is for, is to determine what needs to be changed. So I think the training center is good, but I think it might maybe need to be reduced in size a little bit just to make it not so lucrative. I do like the weapon balance. It seems that weapons are a lot easier to get a hold of on Savage than they have been in the past in other places like Miramar, where looting is very tedious. So I think that the loot balance and the style of the map, or the spirit of the map, is great to kind of have quick fights and a lot of action, and use it to kind of hone your skills for other portions of the game where you might be playing on Erangel or on Miramar dropping into Hacienda. I think that Savage is going to be a great map for making people better at the game, because it allows you to drop into a place that is purpose built to practice some of the skills that will make you better at the game. I personally have been traveling so much that I've become quite rusty, and even after a few rounds of frustration in the training center, I immediately felt myself getting back into the old groove of things, and before you know it, I was winning my way out of that place relatively easily. So beyond the pros and cons of the style of the map, so aside from some of the things I've touched on, the water aspect of the map does not play as heavily as you think it might with the rivers and such. Because the rivers are both shallow and they're easy to cross, there's water vehicles everywhere, and it doesn't seem like water is going to play a huge factor in the game. A lot of various terrain as well, going up and down on mountains, etc. I think that with a little bit more polish and a little bit more time, having things added to the map, that it'll end up playing quite well. I like it. It's very simple in its current form. I think that it has a lot of good terrain. And I think that once the landmarks are fleshed out and the flow of the map is adjusted a little bit, it'll be a great addition to the map pool. And it really, I guess the one other thing that Savage does compared to a map like Miramar is that it kind of highlights the flaws of a map like Miramar a lot more than I thought it would. Miramar has become one of my least favorite maps to play, and out of the 2 that are currently available, that means I've begun actually dodging Miramar just because the slow mid game is just too much to bear, and the map terrain is just not that great. So I'm just having I'm out of love with Miramar right now, and having a map like Savage come in and kind of rekindle some of the fun of a place like school or early military base before it was leading to really boring mid games has been fun. And I think that with a few easy tweaks, even to this test, that or at least this current state of the map, that Savage could be easily one of my favorite maps to play on between the 3 that currently exist. So obviously, this is my first day playing it. Maybe I'll have different opinions in a couple of days once I've spent a significant amount of hours with it. But overall, so far, so good. A few other little notes. The vehicles and weapons are all there. I haven't seen the Winchester yet, but the DP-28's there. There's a revolver there. All the weapons and vehicles from both Miramar and Erangel are on Savage. So if you have a preference or you like a certain type of gun, you can basically practice with all the different types. So I'm just going to let you watch the footage, and I'll show you a clip of the one win I did have. But otherwise, it was a fun test. I'll be testing it more on my Twitch at twitch.tv/wtfmoses. You can follow me on Twitter at wtfmoses as well for other updates. That's it for this initial video. I hope to be bringing you more footage in the coming days. And until next time, I'll see you out there. Why are there so many people? Prone, thank you. He's above me. Oh, you're fucking dead, dude. You're dead.